And once again, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Buffalo History Channel. It's good to have you with us. We're at a little over 800 subscribers. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. I'd like to thank all of those that subscribed to me already. Want to also give a shout out to Dr. Yusuf and to Anwar Yusuf Dunbar for having me on his platform earlier today. Go to his platform at Big Discussions 76 right here on YouTube and check out the interview that he did with myself. Okay, now today we're going to talk about the Employment Information Center. Now, if you saw my documentary on model cities titled Model City, you heard a little bit about the Employment Information Center when we interviewed Dave Collins. But now we're going to expand on that today with the gentleman that I have with us today. His name is Richard Lidge Sr. Mr. Lidge, welcome to the Buffalo History Channel.
Thank you.
Okay, it's good to have you with us, sir. For starters, can you talk to us about, in your words, how did you get involved with the Employment Information Center, and what was the Employment Information Center?
The Employment Information System was a Model Cities program, and it sort of started with the Build organization's protests in the 60s, and then it went on along about 1968. There was a federal program called the Justice Program, and I was a student in that Justice Program, and Dave Collins was the director, and we started to gain information about what the needs of the community were. And Dave Collins' programs, the Justice Program, allowed people to get into the construction industries, all of the different construction industries, and gain their skills and become qualified journeymen. And the training of all in all the trades. I was a student in the Justice Program, and I went through the Adult Apprenticeship Program and was awarded, after about a couple months, I was awarded a journeyman carpenter card. I worked for about 2 years as a carpenter, commercial carpenter, and I got a call from David Collins to ask me to join the committee for the development of Model Cities Employment Information Center section of a Model Cities program. This committee lasted about 2 months, and at the end of those committee meetings, Dave Collins went for the directorship of Employment Information Center, and I went for the second position as supervisor for their senior coaches, and David Lewis went for the position as supervisor to the employment coaches.
So how long were you with the Employment Information Center?
Well, I was there about 3 years at least, 2.5 to 3 years. And after about 2 years in the program, my wife and I wrote a program for education in the anthropology department to allow employees of the Employment Information Center and Model Cities to improve their education and their ability to move forward. Model Cities agreed to pay for the tuition and for the students. 25 students actually signed up for the program, and 13 finished a couple of years later, and one finished a graduate program in that same schedule.
The Employment Information Center had a very unique way of marketing itself to attracting participants in its program. And one of those unique components was a television show called Basic Black. Can you talk to us about what the Basic Black show was?
The basic Black television program was a demonstration of presenting skills, interview techniques for the perfect match of skills and applicants to a job. And those skills were not really that well understood in the community. So these programs did offer a lot of information and a foundation for getting into that work and students looking at their present and usually the next couple years of job placements. So we wanted everyone to understand how it was developmental as well as the teaching tool.
And within that basic Black show, there weren't just guests that were on the show, but there were also actors. So can you talk about what the roles of the actors and actresses were in the basic Black show?
Yes, that was a surprise and a pleasure to find out that some of the employees at Employment Information Center had acting experiences. They were actors, and other people had skills. Some people had been on radio programs, and they had experience with that kind of thing, the timing uh, uh, and the communications. And we were surprised to find that out, but they added to how well we could communicate with people. And we got feedback from friends and people who watched the program almost weekly. One of my friends, Jesse Taylor, was an officer in one of the Bill programs. And he would call me after the program and give me feedback and even some new ideas for other programming. So that the public was involved and they were active and wanted to be involved and were happy to add anything they could help. Other organizations also referred clients to us for employment. So it was a very good match and the community worked very well with us.
Okay, when we were putting this together, Mr. Lidge, you sent me a number of pictures, both from the Employment Information Center as well as from the set of the Basic Black show. I myself was born around that time, so I certainly have never seen the pictures from the Basic Black TV show. So it was great to look at them. Can you share with our audience what some of these pictures were? And we'll show them up on the screen and you can just talk about the pictures and describe what the pictures were.
Yes, picture number one is actual taping of the Basic Black television show. And as you see, the girl in the middle, Debbie, and the people around were actually producing the program at the time. And you can see the posture of Debbie where she is projecting her voice to get a very fine point out to the audience. And you can see the enthusiasm and the intent in her. And I thought that was unusual. Number two is an actual program where one of the announcers are actually working on a point, and it looks like he's explaining how and the proper way to do an interview or some information such as that, but it's usually always very important. You can see he's really working at doing his job, and that's in the television studio itself. They are interviews of people who have information to share and information that is useful to the interview process and the intent and some of the things that the applicants need to know and the employers need to know also about what kind of information and what kind of research is behind the people we refer to them for jobs. And this is an actor who was employed by us, and she had special skills and working with the camera, and she did acting on stage when she was not working for EIC. So she was very up to date, and you can see she's concerned with what she's saying, and she's quite interested.
This is at the EIC Center.
This is another picture that uh, uh, of number one, the Employment Information Center itself at Jefferson and Broadway. And there was a beauty shop downstairs, and this applicant was coming in with a baby in her arm to get information about employment and to look for a job, and which I thought was the first contact. And this is special all by itself. They, with her baby in her arm, and she's pulling the door open. So she's starting that phase of her life. It seems it's almost like an act in itself. But later, we hired this girl as one of our employees, and she was there, and her experience there was a little different than she came in the door to expect, but that's who she was. And we found out about that and hired her ourselves. So that the skills she had and the interest was fascinating, and she had never dreamed that she would be working in that capacity. We have a series of pictures here that would include employees. These are employees while they're working in their day-to-day job. We see in the foreground, the woman with the paper here is named Genevieve Collins, and she was an employee there. And behind her, walking through that doorway, is Lucy Gray, and she was another employee. She was one of the coaches. And these are the people in their everyday circumstances, doing their work and paying attention to what's going on. These are other employees. She's one of the secretarial staff. I don't remember her name after 50 years, but she was very concerned and a very excellent employee. Okay, this is another employee that was a senior coach, and his duties were a little bit different, but they were more specialized into how a person operated on a job once they got them. So he was here working, checking his papers out and his resources, and being quite serious. Here again, we find some of the secretarial staff working at the amount of papers and different things we were doing. It's quite a big job she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we have one of the executive assistants who is helping us with the running of the operation, and she was very effective in keeping us all well informed. This person was W.A. Davis. He was probably about 60 years old, but he came to Employment Information Center, and we sort of called him the voice. He was very voiceful. He was very confident in his voice. People loved to hear him talk. He was always trying to be helpful to everybody, the staff, the employees, and the applicants as well. He was quite an addition to our staff, and we were very happy to have him there. Oh, and this is a double exposure of some of the staff having a meeting to work out or train whatever they're doing, and it's a planning session, and it's self-explanatory. Maybe the double exposure could even be used to say how busy they are.
Having a party in that picture.
I think it was a party.
Oh, it could be. It could be
Like food.
where we had guests coming in and we would have served uh, different refreshments or we were having a meeting with our board of directors.
In closing, Mr. Lidge, could you talk to us in your own words about what the significance to the community what was the significance of EIC and the Basic Black TV show to the Buffalo community?
The point is the quality and the highest paid position for the people seeking jobs, which would mean that we're not only looking at the job they're applying for, we're also anticipating 2 years down the road that they would, the next job they would apply for in that process. And that should be a part of everyday work and give them the impetus to work harder and more focused on their purpose for being there on the job and what they will do in the future. And we also look at the education and the purpose of education and economics that would aid them in their pursuit forward and the things they would do further in life.
Well, Mr. Lidge, I would like to thank you for taking time out of your schedule on the Sunday afternoon to be with us on the Buffalo History Channel and share with us the story, expanding on the, not only just expanding on the Employment Information Center, but sharing us the story of the Basic Black television show. And for our viewers out there, the Buffalo History Channel is planning to do an expanded piece on many of the other Black-oriented television shows of those days. So we'll be talking about shows like Afro Central and Building a Decent Future and Buffalo Beat. So definitely make sure you keep tuned in for that. I'd like to thank your niece, Dr. Sylvia Lloyd, for their assistance with this interview as well. Thank you for being on the Buffalo History Channel.
Thank you.